Today I'm going to show you 6 very common slash chords that you're definitely going to want to know for jazz piano and beyond. I'm excited to show these to you. They're very simple, and once you hear them, I think you're going to recognize the sounds. You've probably seen them in many jazz chord progressions before, especially if you're into modern jazz, but they're also used in other types of music quite frequently. Some of these, you'll notice, are also used in pop quite a bit. So I'm excited. Let's dive right in. But first, if you're new to the channel, please be sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any more useful information just like what you're about to find out. And if you already know me and like my content, please smash that like button. It really helps me and the channel out. All right, let's dive right into these chords and not waste any more time. Okay, so first of all, one lesson that I've learned more recently is that slash chords are generally written with, of course, a slash, and usually imply the bass note beneath the actual chord, which is on the top of the slash. This is in contrast to polychords, which generally speaking are written with a straight line instead of a slanted slash. So a polychord is actually one chord on top of yet another chord. Now a slash chord would look like this. We might actually have, let's say, E over C. So the C is just the bass note and the E is the chord on top. So that's an E triad. On the other hand, if this were a polychord written with the direct line across, this would actually be E over C like so. E over C. Now we might actually voice it more like this. Interesting chord actually, but still you can see that it has a very different meaning, so I just wanted to clarify that before we dive into the actual chords themselves. Also, just a quick note, I'll have all of these chords actually written out and downloadable in my free resource library, so I'll put the link to that below the video. There's tons of free information and downloads that you can actually get in there, including all of the chords from this video. All right, so let's start with the chord I just showed you. We're going to do E over C. Now the thing about slash chords is that oftentimes there is another way of actually describing what the sound this chord produces is. So for example, here we have E over C. In its most basic form, what we really have is a C major 7 sharp 5 here, right? I'm sure you can actually see that because we have 1, 3, sharp 5, and 7. So this actually, in this very specific manner, could be written as C major 7 sharp 5. However, another way of writing this is just going to be E over C. And this is a really nice way of seeing this visually sometimes on the sheet of paper. So I've seen it written both ways, but I find that seeing it as this slash chord sometimes makes my brain think of it a little bit differently. It positions me in this way where I actually think a little bit in terms of E major and causes me to shift the way I actually improvise as well. But of course, you should know that functionally speaking, they are the same thing. Of course, we can have different inversions. This is another great inversion here. We have the E major triad and first inversion over the C, and then of course second inversion. So these all work. One really nice use case for this chord is actually a delayed resolution on a 2-5-1. So in the key of C, let's do D minor to G7. And actually what I'm doing here is, you'll notice an E major triad here in the right hand. And what it's creating is a flat 9, 3, and 13. So we've got a G13 flat 9. And what we can actually do now is do that little delayed resolution there. So we make it the C major 7 sharp 5, or E over C. And then we resolve to a C major 9 here like that. Okay, let's look at the next one here. So now we're going to do G over C. Check this out. You've probably heard this before. Very common pop chord actually. Sorry, I got a little carried away there, but I think you probably recognize the sound. So if we were actually going to characterize this with C as the root, we would get something like this. Really beautiful sound. Now this is actually a sound that more often than not, I will actually see written as the slash chord. So more often than not, I will see it as G over C, in the key of C, of course. However, in this version, we'd have 1, 2, 5, 7. So it's basically a C major 7 sus2. And that's a really, really pretty chord. This one also really begs to resolve back to the major here, so. Oh, and just a quick reminder, if you are finding this video helpful, please hit that like button. Really helps me out. Also, really quick, if you're interested in an awesome voicing resource with tons and tons of different voicings in cluster style, polychords, more typical classic professional piano voicings as well, be sure to check out the Modern Piano Voicing Dictionary. The link is below. It's an awesome resource. I think you'll really like it. All right, let's get a little more adventurous here. This next one is going to be B over C. This is a sound I use quite a bit. You'll hear it quite a bit in jazz, especially these days. This is a really interesting sound. What is this sound really mimicking? Well, we might have 1, flat 3, flat 5, major 7. That is the chord called the diminished major 7 chord. However, I would say most frequently I actually hear this B over C played in the second inversion, like this. There's that nice resolution back to C major. Really interesting chord. Love that sound. And again, I think you'll hear it used quite often. All right, another classic sound used in jazz is going to be F sharp major over C. So right off the bat, we can kind of tell this is leaning towards a dominant sound because it's got this flat 7. So if we add back in the 3, what we basically have here is a C7, flat 9, sharp 11. One arpeggio that I got from the great Oscar Peterson that I've always loved is based on this specific slash chord. So over C, you would basically arpeggiate this F sharp major. However, you can do it like this. And that's really nice. Again, I'll have that written out for you in the PDF resource of today's lesson, which you can download in the free resource library. Link below in the description. Next up, let's do D flat over C. So this is an interesting sound. What we've really got here is more or less a Phrygian sound. The Phrygian scale being this one, right? So this is the third mode of major. In other words, this is an A flat major scale starting on the 3rd degree. And so this is just a fantastic sound. Now you can recognize the slash chord. It's basically the major triad a half step above the root note. This Phrygian sound. And finally, we get to our last slash chord that I'm going to show you in this video. And this is going to be D over C. I'm pretty sure most of you will recognize this sound. Let's take a listen here. Why did I save it for last? Well, because this sound is often used to end a song. It is the sound of Lydian, of course, and it has the sharp 4. So this really implies a major sound, right? Our ears gravitate towards C Lydian in this case, which is, of course, the 4th mode of major. In this case, C Lydian being the G major scale starting on C. Really beautiful sound. If we were actually going to completely build this chord the typical way, we would actually do 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, sharp 11. We could even add in the 13. And that right there is a C13 sharp 11. Again, just the Lydian scale sound. However, in this case, we're implying a more simple sound by writing the slash chord, just the D over C. All right, I hope you've learned a ton in this video and that you're gonna go work on applying these voicings to some songs now. And also, hopefully you won't ever get confused when you see these slash chords written out either. If you learned something, please be sure to click subscribe and hit the like button. Really helps me out. And can't wait to see you in the next video. All right, see you next time.